Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. In Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Anjaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai. Jai Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Buddhika-acharya, Astottara, Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Shri Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Jaya Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Buddhika-acharya, Astottara, Shri Srimad Divine Grace, Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Praresha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of August 2024 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 7, Science of God, Chapter 11, The Perfect Society for Social Classes. Text 18 through 20, and we'll recite text 18. Vitamritabhyam jiveta mritena pamritena va satyanmritabhyam apiva na svavritya kadachana. Vitamritabhyam jiveta mritena pramritena va satyanmritabhyam apiva na svavritya kadachana. Vitamritabhyam jiveta mritena pramritena va satyanmritabhyam apiva na svavritya kadachana. Vitamritabhyam jiveta mritena pramritena va satyanmritabhyam apiva na svavritya kadachana. Vitamritabhyam jiveta mritena pramritena va satyanmritabhyam apiva na svavritya kadachana. Vitamritabhyam jiveta mritena pramritena va satyanmritabhyam apiva na svavritya kadachana. Vitamritabhyam jiveta mritena pramritena va satyanmritabhyam apiva na svavritya kadachana. Anyone online?
Vitamritabhyam jiveta
Vitamritabhyam jiveta
mritena pramritena va
mritena pramritena va
satyanmritabhyam apiva
satyanmritabhyam apiva
nashavrite kadachana.
na svavritya kadachana. Okay. Word by words. Well, let me chant the rest of them. We'll just do the word by words for the first. Vitamun chashilam proktam amitam yadayachitam mritam tu nityayachna syat pramatam karshanam smitam satyanvitam cha vigvanijam swavriti nicha sevanam vardiyet tam sada vipro rajanyas chajugupsitam sarvavedamayo vipra sarvadevamayo nirpa. Okay, so we're going to end on Kadachana. Vita Amritabhyam, of the means of livelihood known as Rita and Amrita. Jiveta, one may live. Mritena, by the profession of Mrita. Pramitena va, or by the profession of Pramrita. Satyanvitabhyam, api, even by the profession of satyanrita, va, or, na, never, svavritya, by the profession of the dogs, kṣatriya, at any time. All right, translation. Translation. In time of emergency, one may accept any of the various types of professions known as rita, amrita, mrita, pramrita, and satyanrita. But one should not at any time accept the profession of a dog. The profession of unchashila, collecting grains from the field, is called rita. Collecting without begging is called amrita. Begging grains is called mrita. Tilling the ground is called pramrita. And trade is called satyanrita. Engaging in the service of low-grade persons, however, is called svavritti, the profession of the dogs. Specifically, Brahmins and Kshatriyas should not engage in the low and abominable service of Shudras. Brahmins should be well acquainted with all the Vedic knowledge, and Kshatriyas should be well acquainted with the worship of demigods. Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha. The four divisions of human society were created by the Supreme Lord according to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to them. Formerly, the principle of dividing human society into four sections, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, was strictly followed. But because of gradual neglect of the Varnashram principles, Varna Sankara population developed, and the entire institution has now been lost. In this age of Kali, practically everyone is a Shudra, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. And finding anyone who is a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya is very difficult. Although the Krishna consciousness movement is a movement of Brahmins and Vaishnavas, it is trying to re-establish the divine Varnashram institution. For without this division of society, there cannot be peace and prosperity anywhere. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So we're continuing to hear about the glories of the Varnashram system. And as Prabhupada quotes in this purport from the Bhagavad Gita, this was created by Krishna himself according to guna and karma. So this is a very important phrase, guna and karma, that if one claims to be a Brahmin, then he has to have the qualities of a Brahmin, and he has to actually act as a Brahmin. Otherwise it's Brahmin in name only, sometimes called Brahma Bandhu, a friend of a Brahmin. And those qualities are summarized. There's a verse, Satyam Saucham, how's it, Satyam Saucham, the qualities of a Brahmin in the 18th chapter. You remember? Anyway, truthfulness, honesty, religiousness, living very simply or austerely. These are the qualities of a Brahmin. And the qualities of a Kshatriya, never fleeing from battle, being very determined in his activities, and ruling the people according to the words of the Brahman, according to the Shastra. Real Kshatriya does that. And of course they can levy taxes. And the Vaishyas, cow protection, tilling the land, trade, farming, and the Shudras serving the other classes. But we learn in the Srimad Bhagavatam, right in the beginning, second chapter of the first canto, that atak pumbir dvija shrestha varna ashrama vibhagasha svanustitasya dharmasya sangsidhir haritoshanam. The word is su anustitasya. So he's saying there, best of the sages, dvija, best of the Brahmins, Sutta Goswami is addressing the gathering at Naimisharanya. Atak pumbir dvija shrestha Varnashrama Vibhagashaha, the whole division of Varna and Ashram is perfected if you follow it very perfectly. You're doing all your duties nicely if you please Hari. So you can't get away from that. The whole purpose of human life is to reestablish our relationship with Krishna and to live in that mode of devotional service to Krishna at every moment. in this lifetime and go back to Godhead. Oh, what do you find? Oh my God. He's not just seeing things, is he? Flying insect. So so there it is stated, dvija straight, Varnashrama virus su anustitasya. If you follow the functions of the material and spiritual orders, there's the social orders, which we're talking about here, but there's also the spiritual orders. Without the spiritual orders, the social order is useless. The brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. The whole point of varnashram is perfected if one follows those the activities and the prescriptions when Hari is satisfied. Sangsiddhi Hari Toshanam. The perfection is to satisfy Krishna. So everything comes back to that. That's why it's the Bhagavatam. It's not just describing different. Here you have different descriptions of ways of living in this world, and it always comes down to food. You know, if you can be well fed, then you can do other things and build a house and all these things. So it's always coming down to that. So there's these technical words: Rita, Amrita, Mita, Pramita, Satyan, Rita, and they're defined in here. Tilling the ground, let's say, collecting without begging is calling Amrita. How do you do that? Is that with the gun? I mean, I don't know what that means. Collecting without. Oh, I guess it means collecting in the field or whatever. Begging grains is called mrita. Tilling the ground, the occupation of the vaishyas, and trade also vaishyas. So all of these are bona fide for the vaishyas, and sometimes the brahmins, if they need to, they can pick up loose grains in the field or loose grains in the stores that sell grain in this way. But the prohibition is don't serve some shudra or something, or even a vaishya. Then you lose your status as a brahmin. Brahmin has to be independent, and you can see why Prabhupada would talk about Chanakya Pandit, who was the advisor to Chandragupta, I think, and he was living very simply and austerely. This is a very important point, because if the king, the leader, refuses to accept the advice, or he wants to discuss it and transform it, and then immediately the Brahmin will quit. You say, no. The whole idea is that you accept the advice, and but he's able to subsist because he's used to a very, very austere lifestyle. He can just go to the fields to collect the old grain and then cook it at home. Or there was one who he had a tamarind tree, and the king came to say, can I give you something? Pay off. This is what it amounts to. So no, I'm fine. I have my tamarind tree. My wife gets the tamarind leaves and we cook it. It's a nice vegetable. In other words, he was independent. Today you have the corruption, because these four varnas are there in some form in every society. There's an intellectual class in America, in the West. Now they may be bought out by the very wealthy millionaires and billionaires who have accumulated. So they buy their intellectuals and they put them in the service of their business, and they create AI, advertising, all this stuff. But so the intellectuals there's an intellectual class, but they're far from Brahmins, because they don't have the austerity, the purity, the religiousness, all of those things. And there's also, of course, a business class. Those who are dedicated to trade. They may have inherited a business or started a business, or you have big agriculture. Nowadays, the family farm is practically going extinct. You have the huge companies. They buy up the whole sections of states, and they'll grow all of the grain, and they'll sell it, or they'll use it on their own cattle raising, slaughtering, ranches. So that's tremendous. The class is there. There's a remnant of it, but it's corrupted. It's a corrupted form of it. So the point is that there always has to be these four classes. You have all these shudras who are making cars and doing things and joining unions and living like that. So this is a very great degradation of society, and this Hare Krishna movement is not simply working hard to reinstitute Varnashram. We're working hard to reform society, one person at a time, by teaching this knowledge so that people will want to achieve the highest goal of life, finishing old age, disease, and death and rebirth, and going back to Godhead. And in the process, they'll learn these characteristics and naturally organize themselves, into the varnas and the ashrams for the smooth running of society, prosperity, but at the same time keeping in the center the worship of Krishna. And that was Prabhupada's ideas for his farm communities, actually, that they would eventually manifest into an ideal example of a society where everyone is living harmoniously. They're all doing what their psychophysical nature, is appropriate for, and there's no envy. This is a very important point, that the main business is becoming Krishna conscious, which is centered on the process of devotional service, the sadhana. That has to be there for every member of society. Otherwise, things get... And so, in a big kirtan or a festival, everyone's dancing and chanting, and it's not like, okay, at the front, all the Brahmins, and then you come the Kshatriyas, and the Shudras go in the back. No, it's not like that. Everyone is chanting and dancing in the Ratha Yatra or in the temple, and no one is thinking, oh, he's a Shudra, he's a Vaisya, Yes, there's separation by gender, basically, that's it, And if someone, is elderly, they can't, then they can sit up front, they can, you make, adjustments for that. But the whole thing is transcendental to your psychophysical nature. In other words, even the children can take part, even if you happen to be transgender or something, no one asks that, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, it's all. So the point is that the Varna ashram serves the Bhakti, serves the development of Bhakti. And when it's done properly, it's very conducive. So everyone is peaceful, they're not worried about their maintenance, it's a whole society, and you're not feeling exploited by the higher castes, whatever, because they're necessary. You're accepting the instruction of the Brahmin because they're very pious and they're very austere, and they're obviously not exploiting. And but to maintain that, there has to be Krishna in the center. Otherwise, when material emotions and feelings arise, as they naturally will, unless there's Krishna consciousness, then if you happen to be intellectual, you'll figure out ways, how can I manipulate the stock market, make millions of dollars, In other words, it's the higher self in the service of the lower self. We learn right at the beginning of the Gita, 3rd chapter, you have to control the lower self with the higher self. And that's why knowledge is so important for all classes. And why Prabhupada worked so hard to disseminate the knowledge and to make sure that his disciples were culturing it, Bhakti Shastri he established, because that's the key. If the knowledge falls off and devotees are not reading and they're not hearing and chanting, then the lower emotions are going to come up, and you'll eventually, because that's Maya's power. So there's all this time being spent in this 7th canto, of describing the ideal manifestation of Varna and Ashram, and he's describing it in that way. Let's see. So Kalo Shudra Shambhava. So finding the Brahman, everyone's a Shudra in this age, so Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishyas. So that's true that it's hard to find them, but it's possible to train them. That's the whole point of Lord Chaitanya's movement. From a Brahman, even a mlecha, a dog eater, if someone is willing to surrender and undergo the process of devotional service, then he can be transformed into a Brahman if he has the intelligence, the native intelligence. So that purification. Deep purification. This is what the Krishna consciousness is all about. Beginning with the very beginning of the Shikshastrika, Cheto Dharpanam Harjanam. This powerful process of Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name, when done purely, purifies the heart, purifies the mirror of the mind, so that you can see who you actually are. And as soon as that purification takes place, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, you feel as if the blazing fire of birth and death is not blazing anymore. You're confident you're feeling your natural bliss and your natural eternal identity, although you don't know all the details yet. So that's why it's the greatest benediction for mankind, what Lord Chaitanya came to give. And why he's the most munificent, because he's freely giving the greatest treasure of love of God freely to everyone, if they're willing to take it. No hard and fast rules. That's the second verse. Nam namakadi bahudan nitya sarva shakti tatrapita niyamitak smadane nakala. There's no hard and fast rules. You've invested your potencies into this holy name, and if they're chanted and heard purely, then it doesn't matter where you are. You can chant Hare Krishna in the bathroom, but I don't think you can chant any other mantra. You shouldn't go in there chanting Bhagavad Gita verses. But you can chant Hare Krishna there, right? That's what he says. There's no restriction of time or place. What he doesn't say explicitly, there's no restriction of person. There's no restriction of birth. There's no restriction, period, right? And that, and the power and the blessing of the holy name is just so inconceivable that if someone knows anything or is a little bit thoughtful, he says, well, why not? As Prabhupada said, what's the loss? You're not spending any money. Why not chant it? If this is true. And he says, it is true. All the great acharyas agree, and the experience is there. And after a little while, probably being in America, he showed examples of devotees who were, as he would say, I think they were very dirty looking, and they were lying in the ground as hippies, But now they're just like dancing peacocks from Vaikuntha, and you can see especially some of those old videos, from the Rath Yatra 1970 in San Francisco was an incredible event. They said, Yadaba's taking the video, thank God. And there's thousands of hippies, thousands following the carts, the devotees are all dancing in ecstasy. And even there were so many anomalies. First of all, the certain group of what should I say? They claimed that there was a gang, and they claimed that this was our territory, and you can't have your Rath Yatra here in Golden Gate Park. And so they didn't want Prabhupada to go. This is a well-established gang, and we know they're dangerous. So Prabhupada, you shouldn't go. He said, no, I'm going. There's no question he stopped. So you know what they did? They drove Prabhupada to the Rath Yatra, but they took a very circuitous route. So it took a while for him to get. So eventually there was a rumble. Rumble means a fight between our own kṣatriyas and this gang. And we had an advantage. We had those long sticks that they used to prevent people from jumping under the wheels. It's in India, but we just wanted to make sure, because there could be some Indians in San Francisco. They said, oh, this is a great opportunity. Yeah, didn't want that. So they had those long sticks. They were using them to fend off the gang members, and we had our own kṣatriyas punching them and so forth. So we won that little rumble. And the procession went on, and Prabhupada, he joined in the middle of the parade. Everything stopped. The car came. He came out, and I think he got at that. Eventually, he got on Subhadra's cart. But I had no idea there was a video of this. I saw it black and white when I joined, and Prabhupada is dancing. Hayagriva is playing the drum and smiling, and all the devotees are around it. Prabhupada is dancing right in front of the cart like this, and not just back and forth, but jumping. Then there's a video. So he gets on the cart, it goes on, and there's thousands, and they go all the way down to the ocean. They didn't, it was like miles. Anyway. And they eventually have it all set up there. There's a, what was it? Something dog auditorium, And they had, filled up with every kinds of hippie and everybody. And they were giving out. There was no like we have with the LA Rath Yatra. They didn't have the idea, and they didn't have the funds to have stands and things where people could buy prasadam, and defray the cost. So it was a moderate expense. It was basically with the prasadam. They fed everybody. And then Prabhupada talked in this family dog auditorium. That's what it was. Anyway, it's incredible. And so, and the benefits were inconceivable. Because you read in the Bhagavatam, if you chant Hare Krishna one time, or you chant the holy name, you get rid of so much karma, Or if you even just hear the name one time. So here, it was a tremendous benediction, and there was no restriction. Whoever you are, you come. And the devotees who were, internal, they were initiated. There was a few dozen at that time, and they were, coming from all kinds of backgrounds, and they were purified. So this was Lord Chaitanya's revolution in this age. It's Krishna coming as Lord Chaitanya to give away a means by which one can quickly become purified and begin to act in such a way that you're furthering your advancement of going back to Godhead. You may not make it in this lifetime. I mean, frankly, the vast majority of devotees who were present at Prabhupada's time, he made about 4,500 initiated devotees. But I have that tributes book that comes out. I don't know if you know that. There's another Vyasa Puja book that comes out, only open to Prabhupada disciples. No restrictions. Doesn't matter if you're, a million miles away or you did this or did that. You may be in jail. If you're actually initiated, then you can write it. And but how many offerings does it contain? 200 to 300 maximum. It's not 4,500. It's not 4,000, 3,000, 2,000, even 1,000. So what about all the others? They may know about the book, but they came and then they went. They deviated. They fell down, this and that, or they became inimical. Whatever happened. But that whatever they did is to their eternal credit, and we'll bring them back in the next lifetime, and they'll start again and like that. So the munificence, that wonderful word munificent, which is giving, being inspired by the greatest charity. That's Lord Chaitanya's himself, of course, and those who sincerely follow him. So part of it is this incredible literary output that Prabhupada produced. And we tried our best, because I was involved in editing some of these books too. Preserve Prabhupada's meaning and, clean up the grammar and whatever things were going on, and present it as it was, as he wanted it, and as it is in the original text. So any questions on these verses? Otherwise we'll read one or two more. Yes, Prabhu. Oh, yeah, the mics.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, in the verse it is said that the kṣatriyas should worship demigods.
Kshatriyas should be well acquainted with the worship of demigods, yeah.
And can we say that like the kṣatriyas of like our society, the difference between kṣatriya, one of the difference between kṣatriyas of our society and outside like kṣatriyas is that like our society, kṣatriyas, they don't worship demigods, they worship Krishna. And outside.
Yeah, I don't know how strict the outside kṣatriyas are either at this point, but this was he's speaking about the Vedic culture in general now. That's there. This is what the kṣatriyas do. The Brahmins oversee, are actually running the sacrifices, but the kṣatriyas are well acquainted with it because they also feel the need for the benedictions of the demigods, for certain powers in fighting and certain, creation of wealth or accumulation of wealth, so they can do various things. So that's, the kṣatriyas should be well acquainted with the worship of the demigods. And I think part of it is to also that they're seeing that the Brahmins are chanting the mantras correctly. They can also, make sure that there's a check and balance, like they say in America, that everyone's following their duties. The Brahmins also need to be well acquainted with that. That's like we had our incredible memorial for Kamala Sundari in the temple. I don't know, there was a lot of devotees here, but many weren't here. And there was this Shukavak, and I was really impressed with him. First of all, he didn't have any papers. All of the mantras he's chanting, he had in his head. And part of it, I think we invoked, some devas or something as part of it was part of the process, the official process. So, he was meeting. Now he's in the role of a Brahmin there, of course, but the kṣatriyas should also be well acquainted, just like Prabhupada wanted all of his devotees to study, even if they're so-called Shudras. He wanted everyone to be well acquainted with his books, and they're quite vast. There's Bhagavatam, you can see it. So it helps the whole society when everyone is acquainted with the knowledge that guides various very important practices. And that's why, it's saying here they should be well acquainted with the worship of the demigods. What's the Sanskrit here? Here it is. Rajanyacha jugupsitam sarva veda maya, learned in all the Vedic understandings. I'm not sure what the jugupsitam is. That means very abominable. It was very abominable. Sarva veda maya, learned in all the Vedic understandings. So that's including, that's what Prabhupada is saying here about the demigods, that the kṣatriyas should also know about that. But if you want more information, I can try to research that. What the implication of that? There might be something in other commentaries that we can.
Yeah.
I have a question on the same topic.
While you were answering my question, I thought of Arjuna. Like Arjuna was fighting the war for Krishna only, but Krishna also suggested him to worship Shiva to get some, I think, Pasupatastra something. Krishna suggested. So Krishna also wants probably to, to worship, for a kṣatriya to worship demigods in order to serve him.
In order to serve Krishna. Yeah, that's always the central point. Did you have something, Maitreya, to add?
Yeah, this is actually an interesting subject. In the Gita, Krishna says that one who takes the gifts from the demigods without offering them back is a thief. Stena eva saha.
Right.
And then we know elsewhere he says that those that devote themselves to the demigods are actually worshiping me, but they're doing it in a wrong way.
Right.
So when I read something like this, I kind of mentally translate it into Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya and brought the Yuga Dharma. So in this age, we don't propitiate the demigods in order to pay back our debt. We perform the Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan, and that's everything else is subsumed within that. But I'd be interested to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah, the thing is, we're not. What did the gopis do? They worshipped Katyayani. Did they fall down? No, they're worshiping Katyayani to get Krishna. In other words, you can pray to, as you mentioned, Shiva to get you a weapon to serve Krishna. That's the whole idea. Just like and so that in that way, just like devotees, they sometimes they go to college, they get a degree, and then they become interested in Krishna consciousness, and they find that they can use that. The ideal example is Hayagriva and other devotees who got literary degrees, and then they were using that in the service of Prabhupada's books. So this is a similar thing, that the powers of the demigods, Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, you can pray to them for facility to serve Krishna or for pure love for Krishna. If that's and that's fine. But it's when you pray to them for material things for yourself that it becomes an aspect of a fall down. It's kamais tamais taistai riddhagana vabhajante and yadevata, right?
So the Vedic kṣatriyas as administrators would be ensuring that the population was doing things in the right spirit, the right way.
Yes, that's part of the kṣatriya role. Absolutely.
Nice. Thank you.
Sure. All right, we have a little time. Let's do one more. Or maybe four more. How many? Oh, here was one. Okay. So this sounds very familiar. Shamo damas tabakshaucham. Santosha chantararjavam. Jnanam dayachutatmatvam. Satyam cha brahmalakshanam. So it looks like he's going to give the characteristics of each of the ashrams now. This sounds very much like a Gita verse. The symptoms of a brahman are control of the mind, control of the senses, austerity and penance, cleanliness, satisfaction, forgiveness, simplicity, knowledge, mercy, truthfulness, and complete surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. In the institution of Varnashrama Dharma, the symptoms of a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaisya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi are all described. The ultimate aim is Achyutatmatvam, to think always of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna or Vishnu. To make advancement in Krishna consciousness, one has to become a Brahman with the above-mentioned symptoms. So this is interesting because if one is constitutionally, doesn't have that high an IQ and so forth. Still, we're meant to try to develop these Brahminical qualities. I mean, cleanliness doesn't require a lot of IQ; just requires some surrender. and so that austerity, penances, all this can be cultivated, and like mercy. All right. The mercy, the most merciful devotees. I mean, they go out, they try to help others become Krishna conscious. They give out the books, and they, those who are at home or in the temple. They're also in the whole institution is dedicated to outreach and training, and so they're also part of the Sankirtan movement. Very important, the beautiful deities. When you open the curtains and everything is so attractive, that's big preaching. Keeping the devotees enlivened and the guests attracted, and it's very, Prabhupada was so keen on starting these temples for that reason. They're not just temples; they're often like mutts, right? They're a temple with an ashram attached, so you can live there. But of course the idea is, everyone's invited to the Sunday feast, everyone's invited to the festivals, and so it's a tremendous preaching facility. That was the idea. So that's mercy. That's mercy, and so these qualities are not just for the Brahmins. Therefore, others who may not be constitutionally Brahmins, but as Prabhupada often said, a real Vaishya must be a Brahmin. In other words, you have to cultivate these qualities as far as is possible. Learning all the verses and conducting fire sacrifices, that's going to be for those who have the facility to do that. That's Brahminical. But nevertheless, these qualities are very universal for devotees. Okay. Now he's going to go through Shalyam, who is kṣatriya. Shalyam, Viryam, Dhritis, Tejas, Tyagas, Chatma, Jayas, Chama, Brahmanyata, Prasadascha, Satyam cha Chatra Lakshanam. Prasada, jolliness in any condition of life. To be influential in battle, unconquerable, patient, challenging, and charitable, to control the bodily necessities, to be forgiving, to be attached to the Brahminical nature, and to be always jolly and truthful. These are the symptoms of a kṣatriya. So there's no purport here, but you'll look far and wide to find that amongst our generals and and colonels in the army today. Forgiving and always jolly and truthful. The truthful part, not easy. Deva gurvachite bhaktis tivaga pariposhanam astikyam udyamo nityam naipunyam vaiśya lakshanam. Being always devoted to the demigods, the spiritual master, and the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. Endeavoring for advancement in religious principles, economic development, and sense gratification, dharma, artha, and kama. Believing in the words of the spiritual master in scripture, and always endeavoring with expertise in earning money. These are the symptoms of the Vaishya. The purport. Shudrasya sannati shaucham seva svamin yamayaya amanta yagyo yasteyam satyam go viprarakshanam. Offering obeisances to the higher sections of society, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, being always very clean, being free from duplicity, serving one's master, performing sacrifices without uttering mantras, not stealing, always speaking the truth, and giving all protection to the cows and Brahmins. These are the symptoms of the Shudra. Purport. It is everyone's experience that workers or servants are generally accustomed to stealing. A first-class servant is one who does not steal. Here it is recommended that a first-class Shudra must remain very clean, must not steal or speak lies, and must always render service to his master. A Shudra may attend sacrifices and Vedic ritualistic ceremonies along with his master, but he should not utter the mantras, for these may be uttered only by the members of the higher sections of society. Unless one is completely pure and has been raised to the standard of a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, in other words, unless one is dvija, twice born, the chanting of mantras will not be fruitful. Of course, that doesn't pertain to the Hare Krishna mantra. No hard and fast rule. So I have to tell a little story here. Asteyam. So, for many years, before I aged out, I would get a notice in the mail, usually once a year, for jury duty. That means that I have to go, to be part of a jury in the courts. I have to go downtown to the big courthouse and sit there among a whole auditorium full of people who they were going to pick out one jury from. And so they had a little video, and then you would file into another room, a courtroom, and then they would ask questions of you, And so when my turn came, I would always dress like this, because my whole goal there was to get out of it, so that I could, wouldn't I waste time on the jury. So I forget what the context was, but I was dressed like this, and I was trying to explain, I think, the 4 regular principles or something like that. And one of the lawyers, they also got a chance to question you, and they can have peremptory refusals, not having to explain why this person would let go. And usually I got one of those. I never had to be on a jury. I got close one time. I was sitting there already in the jury box, I said, oh boy, this is going to be a waste of time. And I think it was because I was dressed like this, they knew that I would have strange beliefs and that they couldn't deal with, So they said, okay, Mr. Doliner can leave, that's my karma name. So I said, oh, thank God, Krishna. But this time, this lady said, oh, you mean asteyam? This was coming from a lawyer here. Asteyam, the word that's right here, no stealing. And I said, yes, no stealing. I believe in no stealing, because the guy was accused of stealing. But anyway, so I was kind of taken aback by that. So I don't know, maybe they had a Bhagavatam at home. They read this, but it was rather startling that these things are pervading. But this is so fascinating. Even the Shudras, look at all these qualities, offering obey the higher sections. The whole lot is deference and service to the higher classes. That's the Shudras, Always very clean, free from duplicity, serving one's master, performing sacrifice. You may have a working class, in every country, but I guarantee you look far and wide to find them getting any of these qualities. Being a worker, it's just anyway. So you can see, this Bhagavatam is a challenge for most people to meet, and even devotees to meet all these things. But this whole lot, to be clean, the thing is that you cultivate the mode of ignorance, and then you're going to want to steal. In other words, all these other bad qualities come from the mode of ignorance, which comes from being unclean. So it's a great service. Lord Chaitanya, the personification of mercy, the Mahavadanyaya, the most munificent, because he's giving the most valuable thing, prema, which is, freely to everybody, if they just chant Hare Krishna and do what's necessary that comes from that. So that's the essence of this movement. It's Kali Yuga. Lord Krishna had come earlier in the Dwapara Yuga, but he wanted for 2 reasons, as we know, to taste the nectar of serving himself and understanding from Radharani's point of view, and also externally to spread the Sankirtan movement. So we're beneficiaries of that. We should be very thankful, and try to hand it on, try to give it out to as many people as possible, and in this way serve Lord Chaitanya's mission and please the Parampara and Srila Prabhupada especially, and go back to Godhead. All right, so it's 8:40. I think we'll adjourn. Thank you for your. Just to let you know, it was quite a juggy. I drove up at 3. I left at 4 in the morning yesterday, and I drove in, and I said, "This is great." I was going 75 miles an hour until I hit the suburbs of L.A. at about 5:15, and suddenly there's a huge traffic jam. And I was thinking, all these people are on the road going to work at 5:15, fighting the traffic every day. My God. So that was a whole jagya. And then coming back, driving alone back at the beginning at 12 o'clock. And sure enough, I left something up. I left two things actually there that I'm trying to retrieve. One was a printed Vyasa Puja book, which are very rare. It's print on demand, but they have that. But the other was, I have one of these also that I keep at home that I took with me and I left it there. So I'm hoping that they can find it and bring it back. But thank you for your attention. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And hopefully tomorrow I'll be a little more together.